Hello everyone, my name is Vinayak Parashar. I'm working as an assistant professor in the Department of Computer Science and Engineering at Ajay Kumar Garg Engineering College, and today in my video presentation we'll be starting off with unit number 5, or you can say section number E, and for the subject Computer Organization and Architecture, and the subject code is KCS 302. So in this particular unit we will be trying to cover up with the input and output device part, okay, and till now I think we have covered up with all the topics regarding the arithmetic and logical unit, control unit, memory part, okay. Initially you have understood the interface of the entire computer, functional units of the computer, correct, like how the buses are acting. But here we will try to come out of the loop of this computer system, and we will be discussing how input and output devices generally interacts with the central processing unit or the other parts of the internal parts of the computer, okay. So let's check it out what and all we are going to cover up in this particular unit. So if you look into this particular topics, we will be covering peripheral devices, we will be discussing about input output interface, we will be discussing about the input output ports, okay, and we will try to cover up these topics which are very important, like from the exam point of view and also from the questionnaires point of view, okay. So if you look properly, we'll be covering up the peripheral device, we'll be covering up the like we'll be discussing the few things like what are different types of peripheral devices involved, okay, like how these peripheral devices are interconnected with each other, okay. Then what are different types of most commonly used peripheral devices, okay. Then we will be discussing about the input output interface, okay. And now in the first unit you have come across with the functional units of a computer, right? So here that the same structure only we will be discussing, and we will be trying to focusing on input and output interface only, okay, not we will be focusing on other parts, okay. Then we will be looking various types of input output ports. So I will try to cover up all the different types of input output ports available, like the serial ports, parallel ports, okay. Then different types of examples, and I will try to bring out a circuit where you will be able to see all the different types of ports available, and we will try to like discuss on maximum of the ports. It's not possible to discuss all the ports, but yes, some of the ports. Then we will be discussing about interrupts. Now interrupts is a very important topic if you come across, like if I take a simple example, like I'm working on a computer, I'm working on MS Word, and suddenly a pop-up message comes that the Windows or the operating system that you have installed is not genuine. So like that kind of pop-up message comes, and this is nothing but an interrupt. So you are working on an MS Word or MS Office work, and suddenly a pop-up message comes and it stops your current work, and it shows that the Microsoft Windows the operating system that you have installed is not valid. So this is a very good example that you can take in, and that is nothing but an interrupt. So we will be trying to discuss the types of interrupts. This is why I have introduced this particular topic now, because this is one of the important topic which is being asked in your exam, okay. So we need to focus on this particular topic as well. The types of interrupts also, this is also an important topic, like what are the software interrupt, hardware interrupt, okay. So that we will be discussing in the upcoming session. Then this is another important topic which is being asked during your examinations, okay. Modes of data transfer, okay. Modes of data transfer, it generally comprises of, maybe in case of program input output, maybe in the case of interrupt initiated. Interrupt is like one of the important part. Why? Because every time we are doing a computer work, we are getting some of the other interrupt. It may be in the software, it may be in the hardware part, okay. So that is also one way of how the mode of data transfer is being taken if there is an interrupt initiated process is being done, okay. Next we'll be discussing about the most commonly asked question in every examination, direct memory access, okay. Now this particular topic, I'll just give a small introduction. This is like this particular video we will be discussing a small introduction about what and all we are going to cover, and we will discuss today in peripheral devices and input output interface, okay. So direct memory access concept comes Suppose there is an input output device and there is the memory, okay, and there is a CPU, suppose, okay. Now without the involvement of central processing unit, if the process of data can be transferred from memory to input output to memory, that is known as direct memory access. Got it? So that thing we will be discussing thoroughly with what is a direct DMA controller and all, how the process of data transfer is being done. Everything we will be trying to discuss. Okay. Next comes input output channels and processors. So this is also a part of the input output interface only, how the processing or how the data modes of data transfer is being done. So we need an input output channels, we need a processor also, input output processor also. Then we'll be discussing a part of a serial communication part where we'll be trying to discuss about simplex, half duplex, then full duplex, okay. Then we will try to understand what are the types of serial communication, synchronous and asynchronous communication, okay. So that thing we will be discussing by last. And finally we will try to find out certain standard communication interfaces, like if you talk about baud rate, okay, if you talk about modems, if you talk about DCE, data communication equipment, data terminal equipment. So these kind of standard interfaces we will try to see, and this will be our last topic. Okay, now summarizing all these topics in unit 5, the most important ones which you can encounter in your examinations are interrupts, okay, you have to study all the things, okay, types and all, modes of data transfer, and peripheral devices and input output interface. Sometimes they might ask you like frequent type of questions. Input output ports, input output channels, processors, serial communication, standard communication interfaces. These are like somewhat not frequent one, but yes, you have to study as well. But yes, these are the important things. Okay. Now let's move ahead with the next, the first topic of unit number 5, that is your peripheral devices. Okay, so let's check it out, what all is present. Okay, now if you talk about peripheral devices generally, like I'm not going with the topic right now, okay, I'm just trying to discuss 1 or 2 examples which will be like beneficial for you, or which will make you a clear-cut understanding. Okay, now peripheral devices are nothing but any input output device like of a computer, okay, which is generally referred to as what, input and output, I/O. Okay, so it generally what it does, it generally connects the with the memory and with the with the central processing unit, and then whatever data transfer or whatever work with the data through the input output is being done. But there should be some kind of devices which generally operates this kind of functionalities, and those devices are nothing but peripheral devices. And these peripheral devices are nothing but, you can directly say, input output devices only. Okay, now the most commonly used peripheral devices are, or you can say the most commonly used input output devices are like keyboards, mouse, printer, monitor. Okay, so these are the very important, like most familiar, most commonly used input output devices, correct? Now let us check it out one by one, what and all we are going to learn in this particular chapter. Okay, now if you talk about any kind of programs, if you talk about any kind of data which is generally been entered, like you are trying to put the data, or we are trying to put the program, okay, into the main part of the computer memory. Okay, so for processing or for any kind of like storage, okay, so that is being done, or that is being carried out through the input and output devices only. Okay, so for computations, for any kind of like processing, okay, and that can be recorded also, and that can be displayed also in future, where in the output part. Okay, so through the input you are inputting some set of programs or some set of data, and through the output devices you are trying to record, or you are trying to display that particular to the end user. Okay, so we can check it out some of the points, like here it is mentioned, the most familiar means of entering information into a computer is through a typewriter like keyboard, okay, that allows what, a person to enter alphanumeric information directly. Every time a key is pressed, the terminal sends a binary coded character to the computer. Okay, so that is like already you are familiar with this particular point, and I have already explained to you. Okay, now if you talk about the entire processing of it, who does? Central processing unit, correct? But if you talk about the capability of this central processing unit, it is, yes, it is very fast, and it generally does the operations at a very high amount of speed. Okay, Now, if you look into the fourth point, when input information is transferred to the processor via who? Via slow keyboard. Again, I am telling you, when input information is transferred to the processor via a slow keyboard, the processor will be then what? Idle most of the time while waiting for the information to arrive. Why? Because the keyboard or the input part which you are delivering or which you are using to transfer the information is already a slow. So sometimes that time the processor becomes idle, and most of the time it waits until the information is arrived. Okay. So in order to use a computer efficiently, a large amount of programs and data must be prepared in advance and transmitted in a storage medium such as magnetic tapes, such as magnetic disk. Okay, and then the information in the disk is then transferred to the computer memory at a rapid rate. So in order to avoid this kind of circumstances, we use other peripheral devices also, like magnetic disk, magnetic tape, okay, in order to upgrade the scale of like performance. Okay, so this is all about a whole and soul like you can say summarize of peripheral devices. Now let's check it out what and all we are trying to cover up in the next part. Input and output devices are attached to the computer, also called as peripherals, that already I have mentioned to you. So if you talk about the most commonly used, I think mentioned over here, most commonly peripherals are keyboards, display units and printers, as you are like using day-to-day basis. Okay, now actually the peripherals, if you talk about any kind of like storage, like providing any kind of auxiliary storage, okay, for the system, like magnetic disk or magnetic tapes, then peripherals are said to be those peripherals are said to be magnetic disk or magnetic tapes. Okay, so generally these peripherals, if you talk about magnetic disk or magnetic tapes, are nothing but electromechanical and electromagnetic devices. Okay, and these are having some set of complexity. So we'll be discussing later on about magnetic tapes and magnetic disk. Okay, but this is all about a little bit of about what are the different types or what are the different examples of peripheral devices. Okay, next comes, which is like most commonly used. Now you are using it. Okay, you are seeing, you are trying to see me, you are trying to see the PPT, or you are trying to see the content through which? Through the visual display monitors. Okay, and these visual display monitors are the most commonly used peripherals, which I have already mentioned. If you talk about the earlier visual display units, if you talk about the earlier PCs, okay, those are based on what? CRT, cathode ray tube. I think you are well known with those. It's like a vacuum tube we are having, huh? Then electronic gun used to be having, and then with the electronic gun there is electronic beam. Okay, then if you remember, there is a, before the screen there is a phosphorescent screen. Okay, if you remember, phosphorescent screen is there in front of the tube. Okay, in front of the tube and in front of the screen of your main monitor screen. Okay, now if you look into this particular point, the beam can be deflected horizontally and vertically. It goes like horizontally and vertically also. Okay, to provide a pattern on the screen, a grid inside the CRT receives a variable voltage. Okay, and this voltage that causes the beam to hit the screen, and what it generally make it a glow at the selected spots wherever the horizontal and the vertical beams are being carried forward. Okay, so that is just a working principle. You can go for it, you can look into this, and this is not that much of importance. These points I have mentioned because in order to make you like clear-cut idea, you have a clear-cut idea of how cathode ray tubes were being used. Okay, that is the evolution of your visual display monitors. Okay, next comes a characteristic feature of display devices is a cursor. Yes, if you talk about, particularly if you talk about this this device only, okay, so this monitor only, if you have to operate it, I need a cursor over here. Suppose this is my pen. Okay, and in order to work it out like this, I need a particular pointing device. Okay, that is also nothing but a mouse. Correct? Then this cursor is also one kind of your peripheral device only. Okay, so now let us go with the next part. Okay, we were discussing about the peripheral devices, and just give me 1 second. Okay, sorry. So I was discussing about this part. We were discussing about the cathode ray tube part, okay, where we were discuss about how the cathode ray tube is being used, okay. Then if you talk about any pointing devices, we need a cursor for that, okay. And then if you talk about the edit keys, wherever you are putting it, I think I have mentioned here, edit keys add or delete our information based on the cursor position only, okay, that we have discussed. So this is all about some sort of examples of a peripheral devices, okay. Now let us go with one by one, like what and all peripheral devices we have come across. Printers, this is the first one that we will be discussing about printers. Now if you talk about printers, what it does, it generally provides a what, permanent record on paper, or you can say like providing the output of your soft copy to the hard copy, that's it, okay. And then if you talk about the most basic, three basic types of printers, one is your daisy wheel, I think mentioned over here, dot matrix, and the other one is your laser printers, okay. If we talk about daisy wheel, like how the daisy wheel works, daisy wheel generally comprises of what, a wheel of characters, and these characters are put into the circumference of that wheel, okay. And now in order to print these particular characters which are in the circumference of the screen, the wheel rotates to the proper position, okay. And with the help of a magnet, I think it's mentioned over here, energized magnet, it presses the end letter into the against the ribbon, okay. And in that way the particular character used to be printed, okay. So that was the daisy wheel printer. And then comes across with dot matrix printer, okay. Dot matrix printer, how it works with the help of set of dots, okay, along a printing generally mechanism, okay. And for example, I have having a 5x7 dot matrix printer. That generally print suppose 80 characters per line, and 7 horizontal lines will be there. That means if you talk about, each will consist of how many, 5x80, that means 400 dots will be there, and each dot can be printed or not, that depends on the specific characters that are printed on the line. So this is the small working principle of a dot matrix. I am not going into detail of those, but yes, how the dot matrix works, how the daisy wheel works, okay. And then comes you are having a photographic drum, that is known as your laser printer. So laser printer generally uses a rotating photographic drum, okay. What it does, it generally used to imprint the characters on the character images, and the pattern is then transferred onto paper in the same manner as a copying machine, okay. So these are the three things. If you look into like the regular way of working with the printers, we are generally working maximum times with the laser printer only, okay. But if we talk about dot matrix, if we talk about daisy wheel, we have used it, but that is like a little bit of like outskirt right now, okay. We are using mainly with the laser printers only, okay. Now come across, these are some of the examples that you can give it, that you can mention it. Just I am trying to elaborate the particular topic, peripheral devices, so that you can get a good idea that how input output, what are different types of commonly used input output devices in computer architecture part, okay. Now if you talk about other peripheral devices, we are having magnetic tapes, we are having magnetic disc. If you talk about magnetic tapes, if you start with a cassette recorder, then it comes over with like a DVD recorder, then it comes over like a like external hard disks, okay, with a small memory size. Now it has increased like anything, it has gone more than 1 terabyte, okay. So those are magnetic tapes. So magnetic tapes are what, it is used for storing files of data, okay. For example, suppose let us take it out, here it is given a company's payroll record, you need to store it. So in order to store a particular company's payroll record, you need a bigger amount of space, right? For that you need an external hard disk, and that external hard disk is nothing but your magnetic tape, okay. Now how it generally accessing is done, okay. Let us check it out. Access is sequential and consists of records that can be accessed one after another, okay, and this can be done as soon as the tape moves along a like you can say a read-write mechanism, okay. Because everywhere in case of magnetic tapes, in case of magnetic disk, there is a tape head which generally does the read and write mechanism, okay. And if you compare this magnetic disk and magnetic tape, it is like magnetic tapes are one of the cheapest and slowest methods for storage. As you can see, check it out, if you are copying a 5 to 7 movies and you are transferring that into hard disk, it takes a lot of time. It is a little bit storage slow in speed, okay. And the most advantage is that the tapes can be removed whenever not in use, This is a good thing. Now next comes the magnetic disk part. So if you talk about the compared to with the magnetic tape and the magnetic disk has high speed, you can say high speed rotational surfaces, okay, and these are coated with magnetic materials, okay. And one more thing, the accessing, if you talk about both the things, here access is done in sequential order, and the records can be like you can say access one after like another once the tape moves. And here what it does, access is achieved by moving a read-write mechanism to a track. So like this, and read-write mechanism will work in a track and in the magnetized surface, so that this tape head can have a magnetic field, and then it can take a rotational part, and then it can do the read and write mechanism, okay. And disks are usually most for bulk storage of programs and data, okay. So like these are few points I have tried to bring it out. Now if you talk about other input output devices also, there are a lot of input output devices, like if you talk about the printer part, only plotters, we are having a huge amount of like huge size plotters, okay. Then you can talk about OMR, OCR, okay, optical character readers, magnetic character readers, okay. Then we are having, I think mentioned over here, analog to digital converters, okay. And these are the different types of input and output devices which you can also put into mention. Now everywhere if you talk about input and output devices, some way or the other the concept of size matters. So size can also be a part of it, okay. So size should be also mentioned. So if you look into the last point, the input and output organization of a computer is a function of the size of the computer and the devices connected to it, okay. So the difference between a small and a large system is mostly dependent on the amount of hardware the computer has available for communicating with the peripheral units and the number of peripherals connected to the system. So overall, if you look into the last point generally designates one important point, that is the size. So if you talk about any input output devices in terms of peripheral devices to be connected to the central processing unit, if it varies from size to size, definitely the accessibility, the speed, the accuracy, the optimization, everything varies from lower size to higher size. That's the one. But in case of today's trend, the entire thing, the bigger size has been converted into small size, and everything has been transferred into mobile form, correct. So that's what important part we should know it. Now USB, you can say pen drive, okay. You can, earlier it was having through the hard disk only you are able to store, and you come across with like 100 MB pen drive, then it has increased like anything 2 GB, then 4 GB pen drive, then from pen drive it just transferred into like hard disk, okay. Then we can come across, suppose we are not having a pen drive, we can take a USB port and connect with the mobile phone and use the mobile phone as a pen drive option. So nowadays if you look into the optical disc, like if you talk about like CD-ROM, if you talk about DVD-ROM or CDs and DVDs, those has been excluded out, okay. In place of those we are using hard disk, we are using USB pen drive, okay. We are using, suppose your mobile phone only, you are taking a USB connector and then you are connecting with the mobile phone. So now if you look into the trend, it has been evolving like anything, right. So these are a few of the things that I thought of like discussing with you all about the peripheral devices. Now comes important point about in peripheral devices how the ASCII alphanumeric characters are used. See, why I have included this particular part, because you are using the most commonly used peripheral devices, that is what, a keyboard. So if you talk about a keyboard, definitely you are pressing something keys, and you are inputting through the mainly through the keyboard only, right. So that means we need to understand how these binary coded decimal part or BCD code decimal part or alphanumeric codes are being transferred from the keyboard to the system, to the processor, and the processor is processing that part. So that is done through the ASCII alphanumeric characters. So first point, if you look into the first point, wherever input and output devices that communicate with people and the other computers are usually involved in the transfer of alphanumeric information to and from the device that in the computer, which I have already mentioned to you, okay. But the standard of these alphanumeric characters is decided by whom? ASCII. ASCII is nothing but American Standard Code for Information Interchange, correct. So how does this ASCII, the standard has been designated? The standard has been designated with the help of 7 bits, okay. 7 bits starting from B1 to B7, Okay, so how like you can mention over here, see, the 7 bits of the code are designated by B1 through B7, with B7 being the MSB, that is most significant bit, and B1 become the least significant bit, that is LSB. Okay, now if I take an example, suppose I take an example of A. Okay, so if I take an example of A, you look into the particular part by row and column. The row is which one? 0 0 0 1. Okay, and the column is what? 1 0 0. So together merge it column by row, that it will become 1 0 0 0 0 1, as you can check it out here. So column is 100 and row is 0 0 0 1. So like this, the alphanumeric bit has been designated for the letter A. So like this, you can find out total 128 characters which is being designated in the ASCII part. Okay, now in this ASCII code, it contains almost 94 characters that can be printed, and 34 non-printing characters are also used. Okay, non-printing characters are also used for various control functions like null, then SOH, STX, ETX, EOT. These are all like different kinds of, you can say, control functions. Okay. So the printing characters consist of total 26 uppercase letters. I think this is very common to you. 26 letters are there from A to Z. 26 lowercase. Okay, same agar uppercase is there, if there is an uppercase, then the same way lowercase. 10 numerals, that is 10 digits, that is 0 to 9. Okay, then 32 special printable characters like percentage, asterisk, alpha, @ $. So these are also been some of the special characters. Okay, so this is what you have got an idea how the standard has been maintained, how many number of characters are being used. That is 128 characters, out of which 92 characters are like mainly 94 characters are being mainly used, okay, for printing, and 34 non-printing characters are used, which are used as what? Control functions. Okay, and those are all designated in 000 and 001. Okay. So this is all about your. Now one more thing, how this particular this 7 bits has been differentiated. Again I am repeating, B1, B2, B3, B4, that means 4 bits has been designated for counting the number of rows, and then 3 bits has been given for counting the number of characters. Okay, so this is your this standard, you need to maintain it. So this is all about your peripheral devices. Hope it is clear to everyone. Now we will be moving to the next one. Now in terms of peripheral devices, we have mentioned 32 non-printing characteristics, right? Non-printing characters, and those are used as what? Those are used as control functions, right? 34 non-printing characters. So these control characters are this one. So suppose I am talking about ETX, it is end of text. If you talk about ENQ, that is for enquiry. Okay, so just deal with few of the control functions. Like if you talk about SUB, substitute, this is not subtract, okay, it's substitute. Okay, then escape, SUB is also used in assembly level language program, but here in ASCII code, SUB stands for substitute. Okay, now there are a few of the device controls also. If you talk about input and output devices, so device controls comprises of DC1 to DC4. Okay, the 4 device controls are being used. Okay, like suppose if we're having a mouse, we are having one device control connected to the CPU. Same way if you're talking about like if you talk about this one, if you talk about this operator, this it acts like a laser mouse printer, a mouse operator. So it also becomes a one. It also falls in any of the device control. Okay. Then we'll be coming across, yes, one more is DEL, delete. So delete is like one of the common one. Okay, escape, you can do escape, ESC, yeah. Then also we can do acknowledge. Okay, suppose acknowledge, why is an important one? Because wherever you are using a particular peripheral devices, you need an acknowledgement part from the other device also, other end also. So ACK is used, ACK. Okay. Then if you talk about left vertical tab, horizontal tab, so that is also used, HT, VT. Okay, so these are some of the control characters is being used. Okay, now one more thing, why control characters are used? Control characters are used for transferring the data or for routing the data. And if you take one more function of control functions, that is for arranging, some of the other I have mentioned, for arranging the printed text into a prescribed format. So as I've told you that device control, so device control, I am just controlling it, I'm just trying to move ahead, move beforehand. Okay, so like this you need to use the device controls. If we talk about a horizontal tab, that is used for HT. So these are all control functions which are used for transferring the data and for also converting or arranging the printed text into what? A prescribed format. Okay. Now one more form, if I remember the format parts, if I talk about, there are three types of formats. Okay, firstly that is your format effectors, next one is your information separators, and the third one is your communication control characters. So it's completely dependent on you that you want to mention this content in your examination. If you want to learn it, then it's good for you, but this not that much mandatory to learn the control characters types. Okay, now what is the format effectors? Format effectors are the characters that control the layout part. Okay, the layout of the printing part. Okay, now like some of the important typewriter controls, backspace, if you talk about backspace, then horizontal tabulations if you used, okay, HF. Then if you talk about like carriage return also, those are used as a those type of control functions comes into format effectors, where you are design or where you are playing with the layout of the printing part. Okay, now you have gone into like print preview part, then you discuss the margins and all, then page setup and all. So those comes in the format effectors part. Next comes information separators. Information separators are nothing but like if you want to separate a record, if you want to separate a file, so in that sense this particular information separators are used, like are used to separate the data into divisions like paragraphs and pages, that you already know. Like if you go into like the view part, you can check it out in web page format, in online format, in page layout, print page layout. So these are different types of options where you can visualize the MS Word page into like a pages, into paragraphs. Okay, so one column, two columns, those are all comes into information separators. Next comes communication control characters. Okay, communication control characters, actually it generally deals with some kind of control characters like start of text, start of heading, end of text, end of transmission. Okay, enquiry, these are some of the control characters which comes into communication control characters. So what it does, these are useful during the transmission of text between remote terminals. Okay, so maybe like I'm connected this system to another system, or maybe through a router I have connected. So some of the other, anywhere, remote connections, remote terminals, we are considering only the transmission of transmission time. Okay, then examples of communication control characters, STX, as I have already told you, start of text, end of text, which are used to frame a text message when transmitted through a communication medium. So these are some of the like points which I thought of like introducing to you. So I think in peripheral devices you have learned a little bit of ahead of it. That means you have understood what are the different types of ASCII characters or alphanumeric characters, what is its standard, how the standard has been defined. Okay, then you have understood in types of peripheral devices. I have told you that 34 non-printing characters are there which are used as what? Control functions, and these non-printing characters are this one. And in that unit that has been segregated into three parts. One is your format effectors, next one is your information separators, and the third one is your communication control characters. Okay, so this is all about your peripheral devices. Hope it is clear to everyone. So now we can move over with the next content. So the basic way of learning this kind of theoretical part is that I have bring out of the content. You can pause the video, you can play, you can write down the content part. Okay, and then you can play the video at any moment, so that just a brush up part for, okay, you can do it. So that is the only way of learning in learning something through a video lecture, because this is a one-way communication. This is the simplex communication we are doing, half duplex communication we are doing. Okay, so let us go with the next part. This is ASCII part. So last I am ending with the ASCII part. So as I have already told you, ASCII has 7-bit code. This is done, but most computers manipulate 8-bit quantity also. Okay, I forgot to mention this. Though it is a 7-bit code, but it comprises of an 8-bit quantity. That means one byte is equals to how many bits? 8 bits. So it takes as a single unit called as a byte. Okay, so that is, though it is taking a 7-bit code, but it is taking like 8-bit capacity, you can say. Okay, that means 1 byte. then therefore ASCII characters most often are stored as 1 per byte. Okay, this is also an important point that you should remember. Okay, and there is in this particular storage one extra bit is also there. Here the extra bit is sometimes used for some other purposes. 7 bits, but 8 bit I have taken. Extra bit is left out, right? So that extra bit is used for some other purposes, like it depends on the application, it depends on the how it is working. Okay, now next suppose I'm trying to discuss with this particular example that some printers recognizes 8-bit ASCII characters with the most significant bit to 0, MSB to 0. Okay, the most significant bit, I have told you, right, B1 to B7. So B7 becomes the most significant bit and B1 becomes the least significant bit. So sometimes this extra bit B7 is taken as what? Is taken as 0. That means B8, it will be becoming as B8 because maximum printers, some of the printers recognizes as 8-bit ASCII characters. Got it? Next comes additional 128-bit characters we are used. So I think this is all done. We have already discussed these points. So this is all about your peripheral devices. Like if you are done with this, then we can move on with the next topic, that is your input-output interface. Okay. So input-output interface. So let's discuss about the input-output interface. This is a very short topic, and this is like a very known topic to everyone. Okay, what are input-output devices? How input-output devices are connected to each other? So besides going with all the things, let's discuss this diagram first. This is what whole and soul thing you need to understand in input-output device interface. Okay, if we talk about input-output interface, just keep aside the memory part. Okay, just keep aside the memory part. We are just discussing an input part, we are discussing an output part. So whenever you want to communicate from an input part to output part, or from output part to input part, some way or the other, you need a processor between that. Okay, and that processor will handle the operation of this transfer, operation of this communication, correct? But for every communication, for every transfer of this, there should be an interface also, and that interface should be connected with either with the input part or with the output part, and that is what we are going to study now. So if you look into this diagram, we are having a processor, and we are having, suppose I have taken here in this particular diagram example as keyboard and display terminal. Here I have taken a printer, here I have taken a magnetic disk. So all are different input output devices, got it? And for every part we have taken one interface, that's it. And for connecting and for carrying out the processing part, we are having this connected line to the interfaces only, and these interfaces are the one which is just like a, you can say a port, we can say a sort, like a socket, which generally works like a connecting devices. Give the data, I will transfer to keyboard. Give the data, I will transfer to printer. So everywhere there should be an interface for that, and these interfaces are being transferred through some buses like data bus, address bus, control bus. Definitely, if you have to transfer certain data, or if you have to do the communication part, we need a data part, we need the address part, we need the control part. Correct? So that means we need the buses also, and these buses, through these buses only, these particular input output devices are connected. Okay. So this is all about the general introduction part in this video about input output interface, and today I will be stopping over here. In the next video I will come up with the main explanation part of this input output interface, and we will discuss this particular part, input output versus memory bus, because this is very much important. If you keep on mind, if I am taking a keyboard, I am putting some data, somewhere the other processing is being done, somewhere the other storage is being done. Where it is stored? It is stored in the memory. So we need what bus? We need the memory bus. So that means we need to discuss this part in a proper way. So in the next class we will come up with this, we will be continuing with the input output interface, and along with that we will discuss about the input output ports. So hope it is clear to everyone. If you have any doubt, then please pause the video. You can move forward, we can move back end, and then you can like look into the content. Okay, so thank you for watching the video. We will meet in the next video lecture. Thank you.